Hey, everybody. Let's go ahead and open it up to questions and answers and anything you want to talk about. You can unmute yourself or type in. So go ahead and fire away.
And then go ahead, Robert, then Troy.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey, I'm looking to see if my dad has joined yet, and I do not see him. And I need him on this call. It's about him. So let's see. I don't see him. Can you pass on me, Sam, and come back?
I was just gonna say, as soon as you come, just jump you in. Yep.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, there he is. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Mel.
Okay. So my dad's on this call. He has a little thing to tell you about what's going on. And then we invite any ideas you have, Greg.
Okay, sure. What's going on?
Good afternoon. I'm an 89-year-old male. I've been married for 66 years and I'm in reasonable health.
Okay.
For the last 25 years, I've been primarily treated for cardiovascular issues, including a triple bypass, aortic valve replacement, and 9 stents.
Wow.
I'm also being treated for polymyalgic rheumatica, PMR, and neuropathy. Okay, multiple medicine routines have been employed to control my day-to-day high blood pressure.
Okay.
With various combinations of medicines, my blood pressure would average 135 to 150 diastolic.
Okay.
4 months ago, this changed with BPs in the range of 100 to 125 diastolic, with a few outliers as low as 90 D. My doctor is currently doing further detailed evaluation on this low blood pressure, but he has no explanation for the situation. But my medications have been changed slightly to help with this different problem. There have been changes.
So what's the blood pressure now? Like what's both numbers? Like,
Well, right now it's 100 to 125.
Okay.
And there's outliers down to 90. And the last thing, there has been significant changes in my energy and stamina levels since the onset of the low blood pressure. Along with that, my sleep and breathing have also been impacted negatively. Are there any essential oils that could help?
So two things, because the breathing was actually going to be one of the very first questions that I was going to ask. Sometimes what happens with going through and treating these things and having these issues over the years is that there'll start to be an issue with the medulla oblongata. And this affects like blood pressure, it affects circulation, and it affects your respiratory system, like your respiratory rate and things like this. And so when there starts to be issues with that, the tendency is to have like the blood pressure goes like low, the tendency is low blood pressure, and then you could say irregularities with the respiratory tract. Not necessarily like bronchitis or asthma. It's just like the breath sometimes is like shallow, or you're not breathing like with a hard respiratory rate. The respiratory rate can get a little too slow sometimes. Sometimes it can speed up. I mean, it depends. But did they have you on statins? I would imagine thing going on. Statins.
Yes.
So the other concern would be the side effect with statins sometimes is muscle weakness. Muscle weakness can happen, but one of the things with statins is it diminishes coenzyme Q10 in the body, which is something that our body like generates and uses for, you know, certain processes, and then also with like maintenance in the body. And so some of the medications might also have depleted some of the coenzyme Q10. And the other thing with coenzyme Q10, it does help with cardiovascular function, and it also has to do with energy levels. And so, I mean, some of this could also be that. So I mean, I would start off really slow just to see what was going to work. But there'd be a couple of things that I would do that would be safe and not really interact with medications or anything like that, so we don't complicate anything. And one would be, I'd take probably, I mean, I'd probably start off with like 400 milligrams, but I'd probably go up to like 600 milligrams of ubiquinol, which is a type of coenzyme Q10. Like it's more able to be assimilated very quickly in the body. And I think that could actually have quite a positive effect on you, like on your body and how you feel and energy levels. And then the other thing is that I would have you use hyssop, and hyssop inhaled like probably 2 to 3 times a day. You know, long, slow, deep breaths with it up towards your nose. You could actually also apply a little bit to the skin, like, you know, maybe 3-4 drops. You could just do that on the wrists, or if you want, you can rub it on the back of your neck. But the reason being is that the hyssop helps to like stimulate proper function within the medulla oblongata. And so it will help to regulate the respiratory rate. It will help to regulate this low blood pressure. Like sometimes, like hyssop doesn't necessarily raise blood pressure, but if the blood pressure is low, it will help to like balance out the blood pressure to make it, you know, not so low. And so that would be the very first thing that I would try. Are you having any digestive issues at all? You having like poor digestion, nausea, diarrhea, anything like that?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm sensitive a little to diarrhea, but that's not been an issue.
Okay, because the other thing would be the vagus nerve also comes out of that area, and sometimes the vagus nerve could have a little bit of, you know, just from wear and tear of the years, can have a little bit of like poor tone, and that would affect quality of sleep. That would affect a little bit of your digestion. That would affect like stress responses, like tension in the body, things like this. And so if that was the case, I would still have you use hyssop, but then I'd also augment with having you inhale a little bit of marjoram, and then apply several drops of marjoram to your abdomen, like once or twice a day. You know, are you getting any cramps or anything like that, like in your calves or your calf sore, anything like that?
No,
Okay, good. I'm sure your doctor's probably watching that.
I hope so.
Yeah. Because I mean, given your cardiovascular history, I guarantee you he's looking at those. Yeah. So okay. I mean, those are the things that I would just do right off the bat. And a lot of times the treatment with the hyssop, you know, it might take a little tiny bit to bring things around, but I think that combined with the ubiquinol, I think that could be resolved. I mean, it doesn't always mean that that's the case, but I mean, it seems pretty like the parameters are kind of clear, like what's kind of going on, and that you've been on statins for probably a long period of time.
Yes.
I guarantee, like coenzyme Q10 goes down as we age, but then being on statins usually reduces it quite substantially. And so at some point when somebody's on statins, you have to supplement at some point because of the depletion that it causes. You're describing some of the deficiencies, like the symptoms are kind of deficiencies. And the thing is it's not a medical condition, it's a functional condition, so it's not usually looked at by, orthodox medicine and everything, but just functionally, supplement a little bit with that and the hyssop. And like I'd say within about a week or two, let's maybe hear a follow-up and see how you're doing. But it's probably going to take a good 2 weeks to 4 weeks to really see some solid results. But I would say very quickly, within a day or two, you'll start to notice like, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Wonderful.
So the thing is like 200 milligrams of Biquinol will increase the coenzyme Q10 levels in your body. Like if you do it over 30 days, I mean, it has the potential to raise it up more than 100%, like 120, 130%. If you go up to 600 milligrams, it raises it up by like 750 to 800%. And so I don't know that you need to be that aggressive, but 200 to 400 milligrams is pretty solid. I mean, when people have like pretty severe like blood pressure issues or congestive heart failure, I mean, I usually put them on like 800 milligrams. And so 400 I think is pretty solid, and we'll see how it makes you feel. After a couple of weeks, we'll bump you up to maybe 600 milligrams, and then go from there. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I
You're so
appreciate
welcome.
your input.
Keep us posted and let us know how you're doing.
Okay, thanks again.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Greg.
Hey, you bet, Robert.
And then go ahead, Troy, then Barbara.
Hey, Troy.
Hey y'all.
Hey.
Hey, so I have a two-parter if that's okay.
Hey, first off, how is the breathing? How's the lungs and the chest and all that?
Well, that's the first part. I thought I would put my own mask on first before I try to help anybody else. I'm still struggling with it. And I was gonna say, like, there are like moments where I feel like I've been like punched like right in the diaphragm or in the solar plexus. Like it almost feels like that. Like if I press it, it's really tender.
Just below the ribs, like the xiphoid process, like that little pokey thing that comes out of the ribs. Like
Yeah.
below that?
I don't know my anatomy, but it's right on top of the diaphragm and solar plexus, and it feels like there's like cartilage or something there, and it feels like it's broken or something.
Yeah. And are you having any digestive issues, or it just seems all respiratory?
Yeah, not really digestive. Just the respiratory is just slow and shallow.
Have you been doing the pleurisy route?
Yes.
And how many capsules are you doing? Like two or three a day?
Like 4 to 6 a day. It's
Okay.
been maybe
Did that help
2
very
weeks.
much, or did that not help?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't notice like a dramatic change of any kind.
Yeah.
I've been breathing the hyssop a lot. I've been breathing larch a lot. Gilead. And sometimes I'll breathe it and I'll feel like a energetic improvement. But I mean, a few hours later, I may notice the same troubled breathing.
And the tightness in the chest, is that still there or no?
A little bit. It's not as bad. I think that has improved.
That's diminished.
I have not had like that like can't breathe pleurisy spell symptom again. I haven't had that. That was just 2 or 3 times during the second week after having COVID. But the breath is just super shallow and like kind of labored, and like I feel like I'm like, having brain fog or difficulty concentrating for long periods of time. Like I just don't feel focused and I feel kind of tired. I actually kind of just like very willfully started forcing myself to jog again. And I think that's kind of helping. I've just been doing like short jogs, like 2-3 blocks. I was just kind of
Are you having, besides the chest and the respiratory issues, are you having any physical pain? Like other parts of your body, like your low back, your shoulders, your feet, knees, like anything hurt?
Low back is a little tight. I get crampy in my right hamstring and back of my knee, occasionally the right foot. And then I've been noticing like some sensation like in the, sex perineum basic type area that's like not super clear what it is yet.
You feel something like stirring down there, but you're not sure what.
It's kind of like a
I'm
it's
wondering
just
if-
like getting my attention. It's like I don't even know if I can call it like dull versus sharp or any of that. It's just kind of like there, like signaling.
And do you have any pain radiating down your leg, especially in a little bit more of the inner thigh? Top of the thigh, inner thigh area?
No.
Not to get too personal, but does the testicles hurt at all?
I feel it a little bit on one
Yeah.
side.
I think it's your psoas. Like, I mean, we're unwinding a bunch of stuff. And like it sounds like the pleurisy stuff, like keep taking the pleurisy route, because I think the pleurisy has gotten better, but it's not. It's like you're not out of the woods, but you can see the edge of the woods. You know what I mean? Like you're getting there. And
Okay.
pleurisy is can be a little tenacious. So just keep treating it for a while, because like having it bounce back is just, it's miserable when you have it. And so you're just going to keep treating that for a little while. But this is the issue. Like I think when we were talking about this earlier, like several times ago, that this was one of the things that was happening with some of the people who were having what they call like long COVID or whatever it is, where they're still having symptoms significantly after COVID, was they were having like tightness in the chest, they were having some other symptoms, but several of the people that I consulted for, like they were having like issues with like either radiating pain down their leg, or their legs were going to sleep, something like this. And any time where you've really had to struggle with the breath, it throws the nervous system off. That's for one. And then two is the three areas that get hit the hardest with something like that is your psoas, your diaphragm, and then some of the stuff in the throat. And mostly the sternocleidomastoid, but also like the swallowing mechanism and things like that. And so I think the upper part is probably okay for you, but I mean, you're definitely sounding like you're having diaphragm issues, and then some psoas issues. And the psoas, like the thing that's hard about the psoas is like you could take 5 people that have like the same amount of tension in their psoas, like you could say they have the same like tension or issue in the psoas, but the symptoms will manifest different for each person. Like so you just almost have to go on this like little hunting trip, like, is this happening, is this happening, is this happening? Like therapeutically with therapists, back in the old days, like the osteopathic circles and things, we used to call the psoas the great prankster, because all kinds of things can happen. Like it throws off women's menstrual cycles. It causes like weird things with guys, and like even inability to urinate properly. It can cause pain down in the testicles. It can radiate pain down into the legs. It can throw off your digestion. It will even throw off like lymphatic function, like for the whole body, just because the psoas is all acted up. it will cause like this pain that is very similar to appendix, but like when they go and they have the appendix tested with the rebound test, it's not there, but the appendix hurts, but it's because of a radiating pain. It's not the appendix itself. It's just like the nerves around the appendix get irritated. And so, I mean, those are just a handful of them, but there's just this big long list of all these things that can happen with that. And so if we look at it from that point of view, has your body been real hot? Like you feel inflamed? Like, are you losing a little bit of like your superficial, like muscle tissue? Like if you were to push, does it feel like it's a little inflamed or a little bit hot, or else lost a little bit of tone? You know what I mean? Like there would be like a normal tone there, but it feels like it's a little like lacking. Like you can push through it and then hit the muscle.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So this is what I do. I would like to put you on like a little regiment for just removing like inflammatory material in the body, because I suspect that like there's a bunch of inflammation, not even inflammation, inflammatory material like floating around it, excuse me, in your body. Given that you were sick and you had pleurisy, I mean, no need to sit and figure out why it happened. It's probably because of the pleurisy. Like, I mean, it could be other reasons, but I mean, pleurisy is a lot of inflammation in that area. And so let's have you do this. Let's have you do like that Lovage body tonic, or Lovage and like a massage oil or a lotion, or I mean, mix it up really good and then just like apply it all over your body. And if you can't do it like that, put a bunch of it in a salt bath and do like salt baths every day and just soak in the salt bath for like 20-30 minutes. Just like really soak in the Lovage. If you can put it on topically, I would do that. Like you can hit the areas that you're feeling discomfort, but I mean, I think it's also important just to kind of cover the body. Like you just want to clean everything up. And let's have you do that and continue with the pleurisy route, but let's also have you go to something in the herbal realm instead of the oils. You know, because I think we've hit some of the oils that would potentially loosen up the diaphragm and the psoas, but you know, things like larch would be good here, you know, hyssop, sitka, all those would be good. You can inhale them quite a bit, but let's step it up a little bit. You know, even from that last weekend, the relaxation blend, that could be helpful, because it's like a lot of frankincense. It's a lot of things that would be good for this kind of thing. But the herb that I would like you to take is lobelia, Lobelia, lobelia. And again, you're not going to find it in a health food store. Go on Amazon, get it in capsules. Don't get tincture, don't get a homeopathic, get like just straight up old school capsules. And let's have you start with like one in the morning, one in the evening. And you don't want to take too much of that, just because if you take too much of it, I mean, you would have to take a lot, but it would actually make you empty out your stomach, like you would throw it up. And so a capsule twice a day is not going to do it, but that's going to relax the fascia, but it will relax the diaphragm and the psoas. Oils like Ami Visnaga and Anula, I mean, those should help, but I think we're needing to step it up a little bit. Like this has been going on for a while, and I think with the pleurisy, you really had to struggle to breathe, and it's so wound up. Let's do a little bit of a shotgun approach. So keep using those oils, but let's get some lobelia in you.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like every night when you go to bed, you know, with pranic healing, a lot of green into your diaphragm itself. Like just both hands up, and for like several minutes, just visualize, not in the solar plexus, like kind of up, like, kind of through the solar plexus, but up, like, like this.
Uh-huh.
And for like 5 to maybe 10 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes, something like that, like a really long time. Just fill up that diaphragm with a bunch of green. Actually, if you want to get fancy about it, do the delicate regeneration, greenish yellow, greenish violet. Do that, because it would have the benefit of green, but it's also a bit re-educating to the nerves. And so I'd actually go that route.
Okay.
But just like, it feels like, oh, I feel done. Keep pushing it a little bit, like until you feel like energetically kind of full. You might not. A lot of times when the nerves, because the diaphragm is going to throw off like the autonomic nervous system, and then it throws off the somatic nervous system. Like it starts these like chain reactions. And the thing is when somebody's gone through like a health crisis or like an accident or an injury or something like that, there's the things that we look at that are like, hey, there's these symptoms and this got injured and this is going on, but you just start going through and just start treating things and correcting things. Like even if they don't seem like they're related, you still treat them, because the big issue is sometimes that if the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, which is tied to rest and repair, gets really thrown out of whack, you'll start to have these weird symptoms in the body that don't seem to have any correlation with each other. The correlation is it's because the parasympathetic nervous system is not functioning. Like it's like depleted, it's lost some tone, and it just starts doing these like weird things in the body. Every once in a while with something like that, I'm not saying we're going to do this right now, but one of the things that we also do is we would treat you with probably a little bit of potassium, like just like a tablet or two a day. But have you been like real thirsty or anything like that, like excessively thirsty or crampy?
I've kind of like gone back and forth from being like super thirsty and just wanting like ice cold stuff, and then noticing like I'm not drinking very much water other days.
Okay, let's see how this treats you, but we might put you on, try drinking things that have electrolytes in it, right? Just
Okay.
even if it's like Gatorade or whatever that one is. What's the one in there? Like
I have some electrolyte capsules.
yeah,
Like just
perfect. Yeah, try doing that, or the Cell Food or the Pedialyte, or anything where you're getting that. And with potassium, you think of bananas, but like have a baked potato like 2 or 3 nights in a row, and there is twice as much potassium in a baked potato than there is in a banana. So like just chow down on some potatoes for a little while, but like baked, like not fried.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
try that. I mean, the reason why I hesitate with the potassium is like you just don't want to start slamming potassium. You know what I mean? That's a way to throw the body out of whack another way. And so let's try doing it with some food and just balancing some of these things out. But the thirst issue, there's some electrolyte issue there, and it's probably potassium. It could be other things, but it could be the potassium. But as you go through and you normalize these things, it might start to regulate. I'm starting to suspect that, because I've been reading up on like the long-term effects of like COVID and vaccine stuff, and just to see like, are there things that are popping up that we need to address and treat. And I haven't seen anything on potassium deficiencies, but I'm seeing more and more. Like for whatever reason, people are having more potassium deficiencies than so it can start affecting like your blood pressure and heart rate and all those kinds of things. And so again, it's not something we just want to start slamming. Like you try to do it in ways like with food and with just electrolytes and making sure that that's going okay. But then we do that with you. We put you on potassium for like about a week. And we did that with Samantha, and we just couldn't get it regulated. We put her on potassium just for a few days, and then it all regulated. But I think it's good to try to do it the first way we're talking about first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. My other question
are you on
was,
are you on any blood pressure meds or anything like that?
no,
No cardiovascular meds or anything like that?
no.
Okay, so we should be okay with the potassium if we come to that, but
Okay.
Mhm.
I was gonna say I have a potassium, magnesium, calcium
yeah, you could do
tablet.
it. Yeah, why don't you try that? But just like a low dose.
Okay, just like one a day or something.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. All right. Thank you. My other question was, I don't normally have that many chronic healing clinics or clients.
Mhm.
I just do clinic and work on people there, but I've been having more people just through my art business where I go to private collectors' homes and hang that are just like kind of randomly asking me to do stuff.
Great.
And I had a collector that asked me to do some stuff to help her parents out.
Mhm.
They're in their like late 70s or early 80s. It's like a retired doctor and his wife.
Mhm.
He just retired a couple years ago, and they just moved from Illinois down here to be with the kids and grandkids. And they've gone from living like on a big plot of land with, trees and a yard and all of that to living like halfway up a high rise in downtown Austin. And I've been to their condo a few times, and they just, really seem like they're checking out and like seem very kind of disoriented or something. The the reason it came up is their daughter asked me to hang a mirror like in the foyer of their condo, and it was like pointing at the front door. So I normally wouldn't say anything, but in this case I felt like I was supposed to.
Mhm.
And so she got rid of the mirror, and then we started talking about some other like feng shui things and stuff. And she's asked me to come and do a few things. And we've done some stuff with plants and with programming crystals and plants and stuff. And she's ordered a bunch of salt lamps and house plants, and she's getting some diffusers. And I was curious what your recommendations would be for them, just off the cuff. The health issues that they have had are, she survived a brain aneurysm a few years ago, but has not quite been the same since. But she's in decent health. And then he had open heart surgery like 2 years ago, and he actually was an open heart surgeon for his whole life.
Wow.
So meeting them, he especially seems okay. She seems a little checked out, but I was just curious, like how I could help them. Their kiddos like really love them and want to help, and so they're exploring all kinds of different things to try to, help them out.
How much would you be able to do with them? Like, is it just got to be something real simple, or you get to do something a little more involved, or you're just trying to do something in the environment, or?
I know in the environment, like diffusers are going to be a possibility, or will be fine to do. And so I was just curious, like what you would recommend. I don't know like how receptive either of them are going to
I would
be to
say,
like.
given like what you described about them, I'd stop at diffusers. Like
Okay.
like you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by trying to push too much with somebody who's like already like, I don't know. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I get your foot in the door, and then like afterwards, like if they're like, hey, I'm feeling really good, what can I do next? Then you can do it, but don't like push it too hard.
Okay.
That's what I used to have to do in the corporate thing. Like you just do a little baby step and you stand back and you go, okay, what are you going to do with this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
What would you recommend to put in the diffusers for them?
I would probably do large. I like large for both of these for a couple of reasons. So for one, helps with respiratory stuff, helps with protecting the respiratory tract, which is good for the side effects and the exposures that come with COVID, and if they're using masks, not using masks, it's protective to the respiratory tract somewhat. Then on another level, it really helps to reduce like a certain kinds of stress in the body. And like when we talk about stress, like I kind of like go, oh, there's this kind of stress and there's that kind of stress, and yada yada yada, right? And like a lot of times why I'm saying it like that is, you don't need to like listen to me like follow the bouncing ball as I go down some weird rabbit hole. You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
a bunch of anatomy, physiology. But let me just say it in like a really kind of simple way. Like that you could say like the different kinds of stress, you can almost track like how somebody's cognitively processing something, or like their emotions, or a lot of times by looking at the reflection of how their nervous system is functioning and interacting with the world, or sometimes because of things that have happened, like each piece of the nervous system has like this little function. And so when a person's having difficulty in that area, a lot of times it's not a psychological issue, it's because of psychological pains and traumas, but it's hit the nervous system and it's causing the nervous system to function in a particular way, then affects their thoughts, their feelings, their behaviors, their words and all that. And so there's been times where I've thrown out the term like toxic stress. And when I say toxic stress, it usually what I try to keep it to is like it's a kind of stress that will really kind of greatly impact your physiology to the point where it can potentially even cause like health issues. Like it's that kind of level of stress. And it's not because there's like so much, it's reached this tipping point. It's about where the stress is hitting is actually more appropriately like being said. And the area that can really throw the body out of whack is when the stress is really hitting the motor nerves of the somatic nervous system. And so like even if you think about like meditation, like you're doing your pranic healing and like you're doing your arhatic practice, and you're balancing awareness with focus, right? Awareness and focus, awareness and focus. You're doing your Dhyan, you're doing your Kundalini. Part of what that's doing is it's developing and regulating the somatic nerves. Like awareness is helping to develop and regulate the sensory nerves. So like if you think about when you're doing the meditation, it's like be still, be aware of your body, your emotions, your mind, your environment, you're being aware, right? You're literally helping to regulate and cultivate the sensory nerves. Then you look at the Kundalini, where you're circulating energy through the body. You're going this way, you're going that way, you're doing this practice. That is tied to focus. And that movement is actually tied to helping to regulate something in the motor nerves, right? The motor nerves, when there is like an injury, when there's a health crisis, when there is injury and health crisis is pretty good. It could be a really severe psychological event. It could be just a lot of wear and tear through the years. I mean, sometimes there's like deficiencies, like mineral deficiencies and things that can throw it off. But the thing that in situations where, you have one that had an aneurysm and then you have the other one that had open heart surgery, those are both really significant events, like really significant. And not just the incident itself, but the treatment to help deal with that also like was needed, but also kind of had an effect on the body. And so with that is literally what I would call toxic stress, not because of the way they were thinking, not because of the way they're feeling, but their body went through such an ordeal that the motor nerves are greatly impacted. And the reason why it's such an issue is it's the part of the nervous system that is voluntary. It is where you process something and then you're taking action. You're doing something in the world, right? And so those motor nerves, they're tied to surviving, they're tied to trying to thrive, they're trying to avoid pain, whatever it is. It's just, it starts to be a lot on that part of the nervous system. Diffusing larch, applying larch to the body, inhaling larch, taking larch salt baths, I even take a little bit of larch internally from time to time. And it's just constantly just stepping down that the stress that impacts those somatic nerves, but specifically the motor nerves. And you could say that like when it's really an issue, issues in the body can be magnified, but it causes the mind to get a bit more fixated, like when the motor nerves have had a lot of stress. And so that kind of like fixation means that you're not paying attention to the environment. You're like a little bit in your own world. You're not really interacting with the outer world like quite like you should. You start grinding on things maybe a little bit. There's all these kind of things. Like you could almost say it's like a precursor to like OCD, but it doesn't always go to OCD. But it's in the wheelhouse, you could say. And so when you see like they're a little bit disoriented, they're a little bit checked out, it sometimes isn't like they're just spacing out. Like, how like sometimes you see a little kid and they're just looking out the window and they're kind of daydreaming. It's that their mind gets like so focused on what it is that they don't really notice the things going around them. So it comes across as like being checked out, but it's like almost like an over fixation, you could say. And so she might be a little bit checked out like that. That might just be a little dissociation, but given the aneurysm, the larch definitely can help, but she might need a little bit more. But for the both of them, larch is a good place to start. If you're doing more involved therapy, I would go at her a little bit harder. But for right now, larch is a good one for both of them. It's a good one for them to be doing all the time. If they would even wear it a little bit, which I doubt they would, but if they'd wear it a little bit, that would be great, but like just diffuse it in the house like around the clock. You know, as much as they can handle it, I would do it. And you could just tell them it's for preventing colds and flus, which it does. And for stress or just for relaxation or you know, whatever it is, because it does all that too, but it's not why we're giving it to them. We're giving it to them for this other component.
Okay.
I think it hits a lot of things. It hits a lot of markers. It can be very good on a lot of levels, but that last thing that I talked about, if treated and they would diffuse that for a period of time, in a little bit, it would slow down the aging process for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we first started talking about the oils aspects, she said, "Oh, what about jasmine? They love jasmine. Would jasmine be good for them?"
Jasmine could be okay. Jasmine, I mean, would definitely make them a bit more like, you know, lighthearted, very activating to the heart. It's very fortifying to their bodies. And it does help pull people out of fight flight or keep them out of fight flight, but make sure that they're using real jasmine, like not the synthetic jasmines.
She's gonna just order from you. Yeah.
As long as she's, I mean, because there's a lot of like fake like if they get like shampoo that has jasmine in it or something, that's just fake jasmine. Like
Sure.
that's not going to have any therapeutic value. Smells pretty, but it's not therapeutic. So yeah, that would be good. And see, that one she'd probably wear. Like you can tell her, like put a drop on your wrist and or on your temple or on the heart, and that would probably be really good for her.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And keep me posted if you have more questions about that. Let me know.
Okay, thank you.
And go ahead, Barbara, then Chris.
Hey, Barbara.
Hey there. I have a
Mhm.
couple questions related to the class this weekend.
Okay.
At least one is, and I think the other is. So I know it was unfolding for well past the class.
Mhm.
I feel like my perception around light was shifting yesterday.
Mhm.
But this morning, when I tried to stand up getting out of bed, I was very unstable on my feet. I couldn't, in a way that is not usual at all. I mean, it was like I was intoxicated or something. I just really, and had big headache from energy in my head, but the instability was a whole new thing. And it happened 2 or 3 times this morning and then it went away.
And did you feel like expanded? Did you feel like you had like a really intense dream, or you just were laying there and it was just business as usual, and then you were getting up and you felt a little unstable?
Probably the dreams were a bit more expansive. I don't remember them, but I have that sense. It was different than being lightheaded. It really was
Yeah,
wobbly on my feet.
I think maybe you're a little bit in an expanded state and you just weren't quite in your body yet. I mean, that's the thing that.
That sort
Does that feel like it could be possibly a
that
thing?
feels very reasonable. Yeah.
So, okay, because I have this issue too. Like I didn't when I was younger, but the more that I do clairvoyant stuff, especially when I'm doing a lot of clairvoyant work, I have to be really careful right off the bat when I get out of bed. And like I get up and I sit up and then I sit on the edge of the bed until I like go, okay, I think I can do this. Like I almost have to feel my feet under me before I can do it. And sometimes it's several minutes. Like it's not always like I can just jump right up. And
Yeah. Like I wasn't sure I'd make it to the bathroom without falling down.
right, yeah, I've crashed a couple times going to the bathroom in the middle of the night when I've been in that state. Also one time, because that's the thing with like an expanded state or clairvoyance is, I remember Master Choa talking about this and I thought it was hysterical, but like sometimes he would wake up and not know where he was at. And I was like, That is so funny. It's not that funny. Like when it happens, you look around and you're just like, you're in such an expanded state that you don't really recognize like your surroundings like you normally do. Like it comes back in like 15-20 seconds, but there's a little tiny bit where you look around and you're like, I'm in a house, like I know that, like
Well, it's sort of like the mind knew what it wanted to do, but the body was having none of it.
yeah. Give yourself like a little bit of time getting up when you're feeling that way. Sit up on the edge of the bed and just keep your awareness on your feet, not even the soles of your feet, just like on your feet, and like wiggle your fingers and toes, because like when you're wiggling your fingers and toes, your arms and legs are extensions of the basic chakra. And so when you're wiggling your fingers and toes, you're actually activating your basic chakra. So that's why, like, after you come back from meditation, it's like wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, so that your basic gets big and you can kind of ground yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, I mean, I do that sometimes when I wake up. I sit there and I'm like, jazz hands. I'm just doing jazz hands for a little bit. And then a minute or two goes by, then I get up and start walking around. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the pressure in the head, I'm sort of getting used to in the morning, but is there something I should do until that to help it a bit?
I'd say like your Ming Men looks a little bit overactivated, and then say like, do the like hip rotations, like big hula hoops, like,
While I'm unsteady on my feet, I like it.
yeah, like just stand up and just do like big, like you're playing with a hula hoop, just big, wide, circles like that. And
Okay.
that should dissipate that.
Is that way my pulse is probably a little elevated too?
Um,
I know what it is about Tuesday nights, but it seems to go up a little.
Tuesday nights, like how high is high?
Not high, but like low 80s, higher than too high for sitting.
Yeah, like that's high, still in the normal range, but still high.
Because I've been rushing around all afternoon and finally sat down and it hasn't equilibrated yet.
It could be.
Or is it the Ming Men?
How is the thirst? Remember a week or two ago you were having excessive thirst?
It's not what I would call excessive, but it's still on the strong side.
Let's have you do like more electrolytes and more you can do it like how I was saying to Troy, like either maybe take a tablet or two of potassium over the next few days, or eat like some potatoes, or something with some potassium in it, a couple bananas, and just do it over the next couple of days.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, like I think when we first talked about it and I was talking about the electrolyte thing, I was like, boy, it's been a long time since I treated that. I went back and I looked at my notes and I was like, boy, yeah, you were showing potassium deficiency. And so it's a weird thing, but I'd say over the last 2 months, like I've even getting calls from like old friends and stuff saying like, I got this going on, and that's a common thing that's going on right now. And I don't know why. It could be weather oriented. It could be because of post-COVID. It could be, vaccines or lack of vaccine, who knows?
Are the kidneys okay? Because there seems to be a large urine output too, and I wonder if they're just not concentrating.
A large output or multiple times a day? Like more frequency or?
Both, but very large first thing in the morning, larger than usual, and then frequency after that.
Yeah, but you also have a little bit of fluid retention?
I have, yeah. I tend to have some in the lower leg.
That's probably okay. Like that's
Okay.
probably your body like letting go of something.
Trying to, okay. Thank you so much. I'll hold off on other questions so other people can go. Thank you.
And then go ahead, Chris, then Peggy.
Hey, Chris.
Thanks, Anna. Hey, Greg. Hey, so like Barbara, I did have that headache the whole day yesterday, and then I did finish the class. I had clients, so I did a portion of it last night, and that's when it dissipated. And I also have frequent urination, so similar there. Probably from the lovage. I love
Yeah,
it.
Actually, the lovage is, yeah, the increased urination. Yeah, that's all about the lovage right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the headache the whole day is just processing stuff, you think?
Like what part of your head is, I'm curious.
The ajna, but radiating sideways. I mean,
Like-
it's gone.
Like going across
Yes.
on the temples or no?
Some, but more in the middle.
You know, normally you could say that it could be sinuses, it could be this, but you know, part of that work, like it does like it does impact the physiology, and one of the big pieces that shifts the more that you're letting that kind of stuff in is the prefrontal cortex. And like even if you go in and you do healing with, you know, no plants or anything, and you go in and you do energy healing on the prefrontal cortex, a lot of times it'll give you a headache. You know, it doesn't last for very long, but you know, be it that you go in through the temples or the ajna or even a little bit of the forehead, it will give you a little bit of a headache. And so I think it might be that, like that when you just work that really hard, it usually means something shifting. But
Okay.
one of the things that Master Choa used to do a lot of times would he'd rub his head right here, like he would go, and when he would do intense meditation, he would say, it makes it a little achy. Like, you know, he would, you know, he wouldn't go into a lot of depth, but he would just kind of like squeeze that area. And yeah. It usually passes kind of quickly, at least for me. Like I haven't had one of those for a little while, but I mean I had one probably a couple months ago. But yeah, as long as it doesn't linger for more than a couple hours, like you can always stop like when it's happening. A couple times I would put like marjoram like up on the temple area, or you know, even between the eyebrows, and sometimes that would ease it up. And I found that when I was getting that kind of thing, that my jaws would also feel a little weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's it. I forgot to mention that. The
Yeah.
jaws.
So like kind of put some on the jaw, and then like you can kind of open the jaw, and don't push this real hard, but just kind of where you go side to side, where you go. But like open and close as you're going side to side, but don't strain it. Just kind of like,
Okay.
you know, because you're just stretching your jaw. Or you can also just like push on it, or take a few drops of the marjoram and like get it in the mouth, like gargle, or just like swab it on some of the muscles inside there. That can be helpful too. Sometimes when the jaw's feeling a little funky, a little bit of either marjoram or a little bit of magnesium, like, you know, 300, 400, 500 milligrams, somewhere in there. That should also help. I mean, it doesn't fix it, it just kind of takes the edge off of it. And yeah.
Thank you for that. Couple of questions on some friends. So you just need some help triaging this. So the lady that had that, you know, basically the marriage broke down and she found out overnight, right? And things just went awry. So things have slowed down, thankfully, what's coming at her from different directions. Now she's kind of stuck in her head, thinking about the soon-to-be ex, and also experiencing dizziness.
Go right there. Yeah.
Okay.
The hyssop will deepen the breath. The Dizziness comes from short, rapid breathing. And also like sometimes with something like this, you're having issues of not really being able to integrate it too well.
Yeah,
And so, it's traumatizing and it's also a surprise. So,
for sure.
like, so she probably has processed a piece of it, but hasn't got like it's sinking in little by little. And so, our world's crashing. And so
Yeah, for sure.
the hyssop should help to deepen the breath. Like anytime you start to see like some dizziness or something's impacting the inner ear, and it's usually breath related.
Mhm.
So that will help. You can also have her do, you remember the pursed lip breathing where you inhale and then tighten the lips and then force the air out.
Mhm.
Yeah, you could have her do that as well.
Okay.
Um,
So I was thinking maybe she wasn't eating well and she wasn't sleeping. I mean, she's sleeping better now.
it's
It's just everything that's going on.
gonna be rough for her for a little bit.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is like from time to time have her just do the practice of putting her awareness on her back heart as those situations come up that she starts thinking about, like the ex is doing this or did that, or what
Mm.
about this, what about that? Because the thing is like the front heart is more like I say integration, but really it's there's different things at play. And when you're dealing with something like this, it is very much tied to a sympathetic nervous system response or a fight flight response,
Mhm.
expression outward, and then also how things are happening here and how it's expressed like inward to like her inner world, you could say, right?
Mhm.
And so she's starting to have like pieces of it kind of come in and filter in a little bit, but then
Right.
it still needs to be transmuted a little bit. And so her ability to adjust, to let go, to move with the flow of what's happening isn't going to be about what she gets in the front heart. It's about how she is able to process it in the back heart. And
Gotcha.
so like if you think we could say on one level it's transmutation, but another way is like it's boundaries, and it's also like inner boundaries, and not boundaries like you don't get to treat me like this, like I have my boundary between you and work or whatever it is. It's a different kind of boundary. I mean it probably helps with that, but
So
we have we have
she
a
has
lot.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, we have a lot of internal boundaries that are like self-imposed, or because of the way life was, or this is what I expect, or this is what we agreed upon, or whatever, that kind of stuff. And it's not allowing her to flow with how things are changing now. And the way to break down those boundaries and be able to adjust and flow to overcome the obstacles that she's going to be presented with is literally going to be a lot of heavy lifting in the back heart. Like if she
Mm.
can sit and like back heart this, back heart that, like even when you're doing certain kinds of devotional practices, you put your awareness on the front heart for a little bit, and that has to be developed. But then the bigger practice is you sit and look at the image or contemplate the deity or the angel, and the awareness is on the back heart, because it helps you to adjust or adapt to whatever comes up. Because like think of it like this, like as you're doing it to an angel or a deity, the more that you get closer to that light, the more that like our baggage, our shortcomings, our old pains need to be transmuted, right? It shines the light on the things that we're needing to address or let go of, or whatever it might be. And so in this situation, you could say it's she's dealing with like the death of her relationship, like the
Right.
death of these situations. So anytime there's any sort of like death, where it's not even a physical death, but like the death of the circle of friends are going away, the marriage is breaking up, new job, I'm going into retirement, whatever it is, you could almost say that's a kind of death, right?
Mhm.
It makes the forehead big. It can make the heart big, but sometimes it makes the solar plexus big. But at some point, it becomes all about how much you can get into the back heart and then adjust with what happens after that death. And the more that you're able to hold your attention there or have that function better, the more you're able to let go. If you're doing healings on her, like the pattern that
Mhm.
the back head, forehead, back heart, front heart,
Okay.
that is for parasympathetic activity. Like when you do it in reverse and you go front heart, forehead, back head, that's for the sympathetic part of the nervous system or the fight flight. But when you do it back head, forehead, back heart, front heart, you're stimulating the ability for that back heart to be able to transmute, and you're stimulating the ability for her to be able to let go of stuff. Like when people can't let go of something, it is literally a parasympathetic issue. Like regardless of the mind has this piece of information and this fact and this detail and that detail and this happened and that happened, all of that is just, you could say, how the brain is processing it. But if the parasympathetic activity is off, that's how you're going to process it. If you didn't have that issue, you would have processed all that information in a different way, and that same situation would look a little bit different, right? And so here, like the first wave is like what's been happening, where you got to get it into the heart, and then after a period of time, now she's got to just start letting go of stuff, because even if they were able to like have a good talk or whatever and go, okay, we're going to save this relationship, we're going to stay, the relationship that they used to have is also dead. Like it doesn't
Right.
matter what happened, like there was a death, like be that it's going away, that it's staying, that it whatever it is, she's going to have to let go of some things. And so first stage is to get it in the heart, and then after that you got to get it to the back heart so that she can go through and process it. And sometimes it takes many years, but if you can stimulate this process, it could literally just be kind of months of like whatever their process is of ending their marriage. By the time it's done, she could be like kind of good to go. Still have a little bit of like, he's a jerk, but I'm moving on.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And
would that help with self-love as well?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she has ginger lily. Would
Yeah, that's super.
rose be
Yeah.
another good one?
No, have her use that with her awareness on the back heart. That's perfect. Every time something comes up in where she's upset with him or the situation, back heart and inhale.
Got it.
You can run her, if she will do the pattern, you can run her through the whole pattern, but I think also just ingrain in her that like something comes up, don't even worry about the pattern, just awareness between your shoulder blades and inhale. Like just keep it really simple. And then when you're guiding her through some therapeutic processes, do the pattern.
Thank you so much. Would that also work for the mother of the neighbor that just passed away?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. It sounds like it
With one stone.
was very peaceful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the body was fighting till
Yeah.
the end, agitated and all that, but
Yeah.
there was peace there too.
Okay, good. Yeah, good to hear.
Thank you so much, Greg. Appreciate you.
Would you give that pattern again?
For the parasympathetic,
It sounds like it.
it's back head, forehead, back heart, and then front heart. Okay, I say that, but if you want to take it deeper, you go what I just said, back head, forehead, back heart, front heart, then go to the crown, then ajna, then front and back solar plexus, and then basic. Because like any time you're dealing with any of these situations where you're releasing something, trying to integrate something, the will is always in play, right? And so when you go through and you release something to further, you could say, help let it go, you work those 4 aspects of the will so that you can just let it go.
That's the pattern for the sympathetic
Par-
or
parasympathetic.
parasympathetic.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Peggy.
Hey, Miss
And
Peggy.
Then Cindy, we have time.
Hello, hello, hello. You know, I really enjoy the newsletter, and this morning I just kind of was getting ready to start. And sometimes in the morning, even though I've had my coffee, my dyslexia kicks in, and I transpose 868 to. I transpose numbers sometimes and letters, but this morning when I saw the sage, I immediately went and got my sage, and I was breathing it, and I put some sage on, and there was a clarity of thought that it's like it sits right on my desk now, the sage, and I really appreciate it because I hadn't really thought of it until the newsletter had it right there in front of me, and then I experienced it, and oh my gosh, it was amazing to.
You know,
You know-
I've been wanting to do that for like a little bit where I can, what do we call it? Your daily dose or the daily
Mhm.
dose or something like that. Where, you know, we're doing all these like intense classes and everything, but like who doesn't love a little simple thing that can just like improve quality of life or make you feel a little better or have you
Make a difference.
morning
Yeah.
or whatever. And you know, we spend so much time doing all the intense stuff that we don't really talk about the simple things. And so you know, that idea of putting that out, that you know, you guys probably all have most of the things that we're going to talk about, but it's like, you know, hey, you have this, like, why not use it for these things, and this is why. And so yeah, we're just going to start doing that every week. And you know, nothing crazy or fancy, just like meat and potatoes, oils that you have in your kits that you can use for you know, different things. And you know, use it almost like a daily, like how you would take your vitamins or something. You know, you just use a little bit of oil, and if something really resonates with you, and yeah, you stick with it. And yeah, I have
Great.
little bottles of sage all over the house that, like, when I sit, I pick it up and I just, you know, put it all over my neck and shoulders, a little bit on my chest and my wrist. And yeah, it's very good for calming down the sensory nerves of the somatic nervous system. So I mean, it's just helps you to be not overstimulated. It's just nice. You know, it's just nice. It's fortifying, it's strengthening to the adrenals. It's just lots of reasons why to use it.
Well, it was real clear as soon as I did it. It was like, wow, this is clarity. We have an Astarian that has diabetic ulcers on his left foot, and he and his doctor are both really concerned about him. And I said, and I put him in for special prayers, and then I said, let me run it by Greg on Tuesday. He's I don't think he does the internet. I could be wrong, but that was the impression I got. So I'm asking, is there anything, someone who has diabetic ulcers on their foot and it doesn't look good to him or the doctor, is there anything that could offer him? Besides, of course, the prayer. And
Right.
I'd
So
call him.
are they infected, or are they having to amputate things yet at this point?
Well, they haven't had to amputate yet, but I think that's what he almost didn't want to use the words, but he's real concerned that it's not getting any better. And his doctor is also, because he's using some kind of silver something on it, he said, some kind of medication with silver.
Silverdine. My first shot would be helichrysum. My second shot would be rosemary.
Okay.
Yeah. It's gonna take a little bit. The other thing that I mean, sometimes I fall back to, and I don't know how much they're wanting to do or not do, but I also kind of fall back sometimes to doing the black cumin internally with a little bit of galbanum, like on the wrist. But helichrysum and the rosemary would be directly on the ulcer sites.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll share that with him. And I have to tell you, my face isn't any better. And I never use soap. When you said, we'll put a drop of lavender in the soap, I was like, no, I never use soap. And so I thought, but I could use a drop with the water that I'm going to wash my face.
Mhm.
I didn't like it. And I've got these red blotches and it doesn't seem to be healing. And it's
So
like,
what did they tell you? They said don't wash with
she said, only wash with soap and water. And but I never, soap is so drying. Only time I use soap is when I use your salt scrub and mix it with soap to put it on the body, but still I don't put it on my face. So,
And so did they give you a time frame of like how long it's going to take for your body to recover from this, or?
no, I have all these high sensitivities. And so she said, we just need you back here in 6 weeks. But this was last Tuesday when I talked to you was, let's see, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was like 4 or 5 days after the initial,
So you're at 10 or 12 days.
freezing. So it's been a week and the skin is really having a hard time. Scaly.
A little bit of
burning.
helichrysum on just one, and just see what happens when you put a little helichrysum on one.
Okay.
That's what I would do. The reason why I was saying was they seemed pretty adamant about not doing anything, and
Right.
but 10 12 days out and it's still not getting better. I mean, it's very irritating and inflaming when they do that. They need to do it, but still it's a trauma to the body. And so
Yeah.
helichrysum would be the thing that I would do, but let's make sure that we don't complicate anything. So just
Okay.
put it
Right.
on and see how it does, and then
Okay.
after you could see.
Thank you. One that came to mind was Melissa. That probably isn't appropriate, but
Probably
No.
not for
okay.
Yeah, I mean, you
Helichrysum,
could-
I love helichrysum, so I'm good.
Melissa would be okay internally, just as a nerving and everything like that, but it's not going to do what you need to have done for the face.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again.
Very calming and soothing, though. Like
Yeah.
good for that. But
Okay. I'll keep it in mind. Thank you. I've got some.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then go ahead, Cindy, then Strada Ananda.
hey, Cindy.
Hey, Greg.
Mhm.
I've this week there's been last week I had my brother's funeral and I was in Dothan for a day, and then I came back home and just rested a day and then went to work on Thursday. So I took 2 days off. And then this week there's some things going on at work, and I locked my keys in the car. And that is an indicator to me that,
Yeah.
I'm really off. So do you have any thoughts on what I
Yeah.
might focus on?
Yeah. So let's look at what oils do you have? Do you have spikenard? Do you have vetiver? You have Litsea cubeba? You have lemongrass? You have any of those?
I have lemongrass, and actually I'm about to put in an order, and I was thinking to get the spikenard, like the ointment and the vetiver ointment.
Yeah, do that and rub it on your arms and legs. Like
Either one or both.
either one. Like, so, it doesn't have to be crazy amounts, but, put it in and just like rub it on the arms and legs, like maybe in the morning and then the evening, and that should actually resolve that.
Okay. And then how would I use the lemongrass? Because I do have that.
The vetiver and spikenard would be stronger. If you didn't have those, I was just looking for things that you potentially could use as a replacement, but that would be vetiver or spikenard is your best bet.
Okay, but until I get the order in,
Oh, I see, I see. Put it in a little bit of lotion, put like 5-6 drops in some lotion or massage oil, rub it together, and then same thing over your arms and legs.
Okay, okay, but I am ordering that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then after exercising, when the muscles are sore,
Mhm.
what would be a good thing?
Is it just normal soreness, or is it like you feel excessively sore or
Just normal.
normal?
Like the calves and the back. Because I'm trying to start exercising a little bit more just to help dissipate.
Yeah, so you could do a couple of things. Like one is like sometimes what I've had athletes use is celery. Celery helps to kind of flush some of the lactic acid out of the tissues. You could take it internally or you could use it topically. That is a potential. I would probably do like that that Blue Healer like body tonic. You know, just like shake it up really good, and as soon as you're done exercising, you know, like if you're able to take a shower, like shower and then put it on, and if not, just slap it on right after you're done exercising or as soon as you can rest, you know, like when it will reduce inflammation, stimulate some of the movement of the inflammatory out of the area, and helps like deal with some of the inflammatory material and like the white blood cells and things like that. And so that should get it. The other one is the thing that I used to use on cyclists when they were like racing every day was that I would use the pain relief psychogenic, which is, you know, it's tied to like when stress aggravates pain and things like that, but it's very anti-inflammatory and it's kind of soothing to the emotional body. And, you know, even with exercise, sometimes that can be a little bit of an issue. Like I used it for them because they were performing, like, you know, they were performing and they were like, you know, being measured on what they were doing. So there was like a high level of stress of what they were doing. So the psychogenic pain relief blend fit really well. But when I would put it on with massage oil, and you know, most times they were racing like 6, 7 to maybe 10 days. You know, at the end of the 10 days, they would say that they feel tired, but their body felt better than when they started the race, which is like unheard of. Like that is just like you come out of something like that and it feels like somebody beat you with a baseball bat. And they were like, yeah, it's kind of weird. I feel better than normal. I just feel tired, right? And so, and then if I didn't have that, I used milfoil, which was a type of, it's a type of yarrow. So still anti-inflammatory, still helps with the stress response. You know, still has a little bit of a diaphoretic effect to help to purify the body a bit. That works really well. All things would be good choices. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want me to just pick one for you, or?
Yes.
Okay. I can I can feel that in your head. Like, one. Why don't you do the milfoil? I think that's nice. It's simple, it's easy, it's not messy. You know, you could take a salt bath in it. You could put it on, like, say, if you're doing it before like work or right out of work, you could put it on like right there, like, you know, just put a couple drops on the wrist and do that. And you could even just put a couple drops in your hand and rub it on like a sore spot and call it good.
So put it on neat.
You could put it on neat. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. And we could squeeze in maybe one more.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Shravananda.
Hey.
Hi, Greg. Thanks. Real quick, just wanted to let you know that I was singing this weekend and was almost singing all the way down into my diaphragm. So everything is really getting better.
Okay, good. Good.
And then I had a question about my brain.
Huh?
My brain MRI that the neurologist ordered came back, and I have some white matter spots where they're not supposed to be white matter. And he said that that could be a sign of MS, but because my neurological symptoms are getting better, he doesn't think so. And it also could be a sign of migraines, which until last year I had chronically for like
Yeah.
30
It's
years.
probably that. Yeah. It's
Okay.
probably-
So my question is, sometimes I feel like I am concussed, and I feel like there are these spots in my brain where I just get stuck, and all of a sudden my brain won't work. And I'm wondering if that's, and I also feel like sometimes there's like inflammation on my brain. And so I'm wondering, is that the white spots, or is that left over from COVID and my brain is just healing? What's going on?
Tell me about your neck and shoulders.
So my neck is still tight, not as tight as it was. I feel like the scaling syndrome is getting better. And my shoulders pop all the time at the top of my shoulders.
And when you get the migraine, it's like, I know you haven't had them for a little while, but when you used to get them, it's on one side of your head, or does it go back and forth from one side to the other?
The migraine is straight on the top, like right under the Sahasrara. And when I get the migraine, then the top of my traps up into my neck are just frozen.
Okay, so let's have you do this. Let's have you use there's this oil called Litsea cubeba, and it's kind of similar to lemongrass, but it's a little different too. And I would say let's have you put it in on like an ointment, like an oil base, or in lotion, and rub it in your neck and like your neck, your shoulders, behind your ears, and even a little bit into the jaws. Like rub it a little bit into the jaws. And then I would even put like a drop or two of water and drink it. I would do that daily, probably like at bedtime. And I think that might resolve some of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, like I think that some of what you're describing sounds like it's just like things can get like wound up, you know what I mean? Like with the neck and shoulders, sometimes it's from an injury. It's sometimes you have the paradoxical breathing that you've been dealing with for a long period of time. It's probably a portion of it is that. Like there's just a bunch of reasons why that area is wound up. And like when you put the Litsea cubeba like on the neck and shoulders, it kind of just, at first you just go, oh, that's kind of nice. And then 5 minutes goes by and 10 minutes goes by and you're like, oh, my neck and shoulders are feeling kind of good. And then like another 10 minutes goes by and goes, my head feels a little more open than it did. Like, you know, it just keeps like going and going and going. And so it what it does is it is calming to the central nervous system, but it does some other things to some other pieces of the nervous system. And in the Taiwanese culture, I think it's Taiwanese, the Taiwanese culture, they actually use it as an anointing oil because of its prolific effect on like the head and the entry point for divine energy and all that. And so not expensive at all. I mean, it's one of those ones that you could go crazy with, and it's very like inexpensive, and you know, I would use that. I would try just slathering that on. You could do it more than once a day, but probably once a day should be sufficient.
And that'll help with the feeling of concussion too?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
I think that's all kind of tied together. Like just all that stuff's just so wound up that it's all kind of got that same, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Okay. Okay, and I think we need to jump over. So let's jump over to the Angel Study Group if you're up for it, and we'll jump into a little bit more esoteric things, but yeah.